which some infrastructure projects and resolved to restructure the fight against insecurity and corruption. Now, these three issues will dominate tonight's outing, and I can assure you of the extra touch. But that's not to say there are no other issues in the news tonight. There are stories of security, economy, road safety, plus sports update. So as usual, just relax and enjoy the stories as I bring them to you on News Extra. I am Fatima Abbas Hassan. Thank you for joining us. And we begin with the main story of the day. After a successful outing at the 53rd ECOWAS summit in Lomé, Togo, President Muhammadu Buhari has returned to Abuja. But what has the summit brought on the table, especially for Nigeria?
The president, who was elected new chairman of the sub-regional organization, arrived at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport at 9:45 p.m. on Tuesday evening. Foreign Affairs Minister Geoffrey Onyema and Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, described President Buhari's election as ECOWAS chairman as a great honor and significant to Nigeria.
But I think, first of all, what it shows is the real respect that that Mr. President enjoys outside Nigeria, because there were three other presidents that had applied for the position, and we were expecting there would be an election. But for the last 2 months, all the presidents wanted was our president to be the chairman. They felt that there were so many, that this was a critical moment in time for our sub-region. And the person they most had confidence in to be leading the sub-region at this time was our president.
It is an extraordinary honor to Nigeria and to President Muhammadu Buhari. When you consider that by the usual tradition in ECOWAS, leaders in the election year are never given the chance to lead, the organization. But in this particular instance, it's very clear that the ECOWAS as a body, feel that they need President Muhammadu Buhari's leadership more than ever before. This is why they broke with tradition. Not only that, that it was a contest for which Nigeria was being lobbied before we left.
The government functionary said apart from the coveted position
has been playing in the region. Look at how we helped Gambia, to get out of trouble. Gambia would have been in turmoil had it not been for the intelligent intervention spearheaded by Nigeria. But that is not all. You know that Guinea-Bissau is simmering now as we speak. We don't know how Togo will go. We don't know how Mali will go in view of the impending, and ongoing elections. So I think that the region needs the stabilizing hands, of a very strong and fair and just leader, that is Muhammadu Buhari.
When we're talking of recharging Lake Chad, we are looking at the Obangi River, which is in Central Africa. So for Nigeria, it's a very important development because it means that Mr. President is now in a position to be engaging with those Central African countries as the leader of ECOWAS and identifying things that are existential to Nigeria, meaning the Lake Chad. So that's one very obvious deliverable, and that we can gain from that. Then also the other, meeting that took place was on a single currency, for West Africa. Now, Mr. President is going to be in a position as the chair to be driving the process of greater West African integration, and for Nigeria to really be central in the process of a single monetary union for West Africa.
Malam Garba Shehu in particular reacted to the recent defection from the governing All Progressives Congress to the opposition.
And two, at a time when they think that they will hurt the president by deserting his party, West Africa is coming together to honor our president. This is one big thing that we're proud of.
President Muhammadu Buhari's emergence as ECOWAS chairman is no longer news. What is news is that the president has accepted the chairmanship and promised to uphold the ideals of the body after thanking the leaders for the confidence reposed in him and the country. Julieta Aino completes that report.
With about 5 leaders less than the number that sat for deliberation and opening earlier in the day, the closing ceremony for the 53rd Ordinary Session of the Summit of Heads of State and Government of ECOWAS ended with the announcement of Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari as chairman of the regional body for the next year.
To my colleagues, heads of state and government, I thank you all for electing me to succeed President Faure as chairman of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government. I had not offered myself for this lofty position, but you refused to take no for an answer. I am truly humbled by this honor and the confidence you bestowed on my country and myself. In accepting to serve, I pledge to do my very best and to work with all of you as a team to deliver for our beloved region of West Africa, particularly in the areas of peace, security, good governance, as well as economic, social, and cultural development. In this, I will surely rely on your support, understanding, and advice moving forward.
The 53-point communique touched on issues like the proposed common currency for ECOWAS, commending the task force on the progress made so far on the issue and in the realization of the dream. The summit, however, directed the Nigerian Central Bank, the Central Bank of West African States, and the West African Monetary Agency to meet and address the major challenges of implementation of the ECOWAS monetary cooperation programs and the establishment of a monetary union for the region before the next summit. The communique also looked at major issues facing member states individually and collectively as a body. Sierra Leone President Julius Maada Bio was nominated to give the vote of thanks to host President Faure Gnassingbé and the Togolese people for their hospitality.
This is the end of our meeting.
The next ordinary summit will be in December 2018 in Abuja. From Lome, Togo, Julieta Aino, NTA News.
And on to the Federal Executive Council. The Federal Executive Council has approved about 73 billion naira for the reconstruction of a major artery for socio-economic development in Lagos State. It is the Creek Road that links Tinkan Island and Beachland Estate to the toll gate end of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. The Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, announced this while briefing newsmen after the council's meeting. State House correspondent Adam Musambo reports that resolutions were also made on ways of enhancing the fight against corruption and other financial crimes.
President Muhammadu Buhari presided over the meeting, which critically analyzed the worrisome situation of the Creek Road linking Tinkan Island, Beach, to be completed in 2 years.
It's the first reconstruction of that road since 1975. When you eliminate the part that had previously been done, what is left to do is 27.8 kilometers of 5 lanes both ways. That gives you 10 lanes, and that's how I arrived at 270 linear kilometers. This is our own long-term solution to what is currently being experienced by commuters today.
The Federal Executive Council also approved an action plan on anti-money laundering and combating terrorism financing. This is part of efforts at ensuring that Nigeria is brought back on board the Edmond Group and given the necessary collaborative support in the sharing of intelligence on money laundering, corruption, and other financial crimes.
It is intended to achieve a consolidated position, wholehearted position by all the stakeholders as to the way and manner to indeed combat financing of terrorism and the way and manner to address anti-money laundering issues as far as Nigeria is concerned.
Nigeria, currently on suspension, escaped expulsion from the network of financial units following the signing into law of the Nigeria Financial Intelligence Unit Act by President Muhammadu Buhari. Justice Minister Abubakar Malami also secured the ratification by the Council of a memo on the transfer of sentenced persons signed between Nigeria and the government of Macau Special Administration Region of the People's Republic of China.
Nigeria as a nation recognizes the rights of its citizens across the globe. And we have a lot of Nigerians serving prison terms internationally. The federal government of Nigeria now has taken a decision according the Nigerians an opportunity to consider coming back home to serve their prison terms so that they could now be accorded the dignified treatment by their relations when the need arises, and then perhaps consider the possibility of making provisions for their rehabilitation accordingly.
This agreement on exchange of prisoners raises doubts as to whether the nation's reformation centers, now overcongested, can accommodate more prisoners from abroad. But the Justice Minister insists that with the genuine prison reforms now ongoing in Nigeria, there is no cause for alarm. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
In the meantime, President Muhammadu Buhari is to begin a 10-day working holiday from Friday this week. A statement by Garba Shehu, the senior special assistant to the President of Media and Publicity, says a letter to that effect has been transmitted to the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives. In his absence, the Vice President will be in acting capacity as President. Garba Shehu says President Buhari will be in London for the holiday. The Senate leader, Ahmed Ibrahim Lawal, has made a case for the National Assembly to take the path of honor and reconvene towards dealing appropriately with some presidential requests critical to Nigeria. Senator Lawal stated this while speaking to journalists after leading some APC senators to a meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari. State House correspondent Adam Musambo has that report.
This is the second time in 2 weeks President Muhammadu Buhari is engaging APC senators on politics, service delivery and good governance. The meeting, also attended by APC National Chairman Adams Oshomole, was however the first since the Senate President Bukola Saraki defected from the party. Speaking to newsmen after the interactive session held behind closed doors, Senate leader Ahmed Ibrahim Lawal appealed to his colleagues to exercise high sense of responsibility and patriotism by coming back from recess to do justice to the nation and its people.
We have pledged our total commitment, loyalty and unflinching support to our party and the administration of Muhammadu Buhari. We will remain true and genuine representatives of our people. We are not going to do anything that is not in the interest of our people and this administration. So I am calling on all my colleagues in the Senate and indeed in the House that we come back and work on the request of Mr. President for the environment and supplementary budget for INEC to have his funds for the 2019 elections.
The Senate leader used the forum to challenge the PDP to publish the names of all its senators to justify the claim of being the majority party, insisting that APC still has 53 to PDP's 48. On his part, APC National Chairman Adams Oshomole called on the Senate President Bukola Saraki to resign his position honorably after leaving the party that gave him the crown.
We can't declare from party, we can't declare from Nigeria.
The only thing that there are other consequential issues that every man and woman of honor who has taken such decision will be expected to follow through. Because, I mean, you do not collect a crown that belongs to a family and you wore it on behalf of the family. If, for your personal reasons, which he has enumerated, and we don't need to debate them, you have chosen to go to another family, it is just a matter of honor that you leave the crown in the house that the crown belongs to.
In the meantime, President Muhammadu Buhari has visited the proposed presidential campaign office for the 2019 elections. The building, situated along Herbert Macaulay Way, Central Business Area, had served as his campaign headquarters for the last general elections. The president, who was conducted around the newly refurbished office by the Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, expressed satisfaction with the first lift and thanked all those who contributed at giving the edifice a befitting look. On his entourage were his Chief of Staff, Abba Kyari, and the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Bosgida Mustafa. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
The federal government has described the recent defection of the Senate President, Bukola Saraki, to the opposition People's Democratic Party, PDP, as a great relief to the governing party. The Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, stated this while addressing State House correspondents after the Federal Executive Council meeting. Again, State House correspondent Adamu Sambo brings us the details.
Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed was emphatic that if the Senate President Bukola Saraki were not a member of the APC, the Buhari administration would have performed much better in the implementation of the Change Nigeria project.
The Senate President, I'll behave all along as if you are a member of the opposition, deliberately slowing down the progress of the APC-led federal government. The delay in passing the budget year after year, delays in approving key appointments that could have made the government, more efficient. I don't think the party and the government could have suffered more than they have already. We stand to lose nothing by losing him as a member of our party.
And what are the prospects of the APC in Kwara State where the defection suffered?
I can assure you that APC in Kwara State will only grow stronger. As we speak today, the entire leadership of the PDP in Kwara State have moved over to the APC. And of course, what is now left of APC are the true members of the APC in Kwara State. The future of the party and of the government in the state can only get brighter. We would win with a larger margin in Kwara State than we did in 2015. I will not lose one night sleep over them.
On the tense political situation in Benue State, the minister described it as a local affair.
Any imputation that Mr. President is behind what is happening in Benue State is false. I think you should go back to Benue State and ask what is happening. I believe Mr. President is not in his style. He would never abuse his powers. But Mr. President would definitely be concerned and be worried about security and safety.
Some members of the Benue State Assembly recently initiated an impeachment process against Governor Samuel Otom for abuse of office. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
Well, before and after the 2015 general elections, there was a gale of defections, majorly from the then ruling People's Democratic Party, PDP, to the present governing All Progressives Congress, APC. The defections were observed then to be so massive that many complained on the nature of politics in Nigeria. The phenomenon is again playing out as another general elections draw nearer. Timothy Yusuf takes it up from there.
Tuesday, the 24th of July 2018, the Senate President Bukola Saraki announced the defection of 15 APC senators to the PDP. At the last count on the following day, 37 House of Representatives members had also defected to the PDP from the APC. The Benue State Governor Samuel Otom last Wednesday formally announced his defection from the All Progressives Congress, APC, to the People's Democratic Party, PDP. Just before the dust settled on these events, the Senate President Dr. Bukola Saraki, along with the Governor of Kwara State, Abdul Fattah Ahmed, announced their defection to the PDP. And this Wednesday, 1st of August 2018, 23 of the 24 members of the Kwara State House of Assembly left the APC for the PDP.
But I had a constituency meeting with my people in Ojombalogo constituency of our local government. I went to them. People want to defect. What do you want me to do? They say I should remain in APC. The people of Ojombalogo constituency of our local government that elected me says that I must remain in APC, All Progressive Congress, as a party. That was their right. They have the right to defect. It's their right, and it's my own right not to defect too.
Similarly, the National Publicity Secretary of the APC, Bolaji Abdullahi, who hails from Kwara State, resigned his position and also renounced his membership of the party, noting that having honestly served the party, he could no longer continue with the APC because his loyalty was constantly questioned on the basis of his political affiliation. Also, this 1st of August 2018, the Sokoto State Governor Aminu Waziri Tambuwal left the governing APC for PDP. 18 out of the 30 members of the State House of Assembly also moved to PDP along with Governor Tambuwal, who cited irreconcilable differences as one of the reasons for his decision and that of his people. Reacting to all this, the acting National Publicity Secretary of the APC, Yekini Nabena, says the party is neither distracted nor surprised by the defections. According to him, the APC is a party founded and run on the principles of freedom, sincerity and forthrightness, and wishes those that have left well. In Abuja, Timothy Yusuf, NTA News.
In the meantime, leader of the All Progressives Party APC in Sokoto State, Senator Aliyu Maga Takardan-Wamako, has described as normal politicking in an electioneering year the recent array of defections around the country. Apparently reacting to the defection of Governor Tambuwal to the PDP, Senator Wamako says the action of the defectors will not affect the changes of the APC in the 2019 elections.
Let me assure you that in Sokoto State, where I come from, is an APC state. The entire state is solidly APC. Whatever crowd you might see or other, whatever it is that you might have seen or you have been told, just take it as a mere story. But what I'm sure is that Sokoto State is solidly an APC state. They are solely behind Mr. President, General Muhammad Buhari. They are solely behind Wamako, their senator, their former governor. They are solely behind all those of our senators and have the rest and other elders who remain to stay with APC. And in the next few days, inshallah, by Saturday or Sunday, when I get back to Sokoto, you will see you'll see who is really in charge of Sokoto. I'm assuring you that there's no cause for alarm.
And joining me in the studio to discuss more on this political development is Chidia Maduekwe. He's the APC chieftain here in our Abuja Network studio. We're glad to have you with us.
My pleasure having me here.
And we have Professor Kabiru Mato, the Commissioner, Kaduna State Government, in our Kaduna Network Center. We're glad to have you with us on the program. Now, let me start with you. The gale of defections being experienced, in APC, what does it portend for Nigeria's democracy?
Portends good. Portends robust democracy. It shows that organically we're evolving as a mature democracy. And for us in APC, we have nothing to worry because APC as a vehicle for governance is built on a very rugged framework. Like using the metaphor of the famous Apache helicopter of the United States Army, we have redundancy so that even like the Apache helicopter, when you shoot the radar system, the second and third backup radar system comes up. So in APC, we have redundancy that we're not bothered about that. It's as bad as they are going, but it's as good as we are also not having them because In other words, you can call this disinfection, not really defection, because as they leave, the infected aspect of us goes out, and then we heal properly in order to contain the need for good governance.
Okay, coming to you, Professor Mato, would you say this is a healthy development for Nigeria's democracy?
Well, yes, I will say it's a healthy development in one fold, and in another fold, I will say it is a manifestation of our inability to quickly adapt to any new reality we found ourselves in. Quickly adapt in the sense that, yes, it did happen in 2014, 2015. A lot of them defected to the APC. But then, of course, the lesson is that there does not seem to be a corresponding, acquisition of skills and knowledge, learning on the rope of what democracy is actually all about. And it simply says one thing, that there is still a huge vacuum between political ideology on one hand and personal idiosyncrasies on the other. Because what did happen in 2014, 2015, of course, was a feeling of emasculation on part of certain groups within the PDP, and they left and joined an amalgamation that is now called the APC, thinking that business will continue as usual. And unfortunately, they are finding it rather impossible, to actualize whatever ambitions that they thought that they had, and they are going back, to their old faults. So, in a nutshell, I think it's a development that is not really very healthy for the growth of our democracy, because it teaches one fundamental lesson, that we are not fast learners. Secondly, it's good in the sense that it simply speaks to the issue of what President Babangida used to call realignment of forces. I mean, forces that are strange to each other are unlikely to live for a very long time together, pursuing common aspiration. What simply shows is that the new breed in the PDP that decided to join APC and suddenly won political positions and are living today expected a lot of things to happen as a matter of continuation. Perhaps there were a lot of losses that they were recording in the PDP that made them to complain and leave, thinking that when they form a new government, they are going to get it. But I like to say, for one thing very clearly, that it took 16 years for Nigerians to become, extremely dissatisfied with the way things were happening. And like somebody wrote in the social media today, it's a clear choice between Team A and Team B. Team A is that team that brought us to this present scenario, and we're in this deep shit, and Team B is the team that is trying to take us out. And it's always easier to destroy than to build. So I want to say that defection as a matter of political ideology, as far as the Nigerian situation is concerned, is that it is merely in pursuit of personal interest rather than the interest of the people that we always claim, that we are representing. So it's okay. It's still the learning process, but I am optimistic, of the fact that the Nigerian people are, very good listeners and observers of what's happening. If I came from an LEA primary school, for instance, in a very rural community in Nigeria, and this is where I am today, a professor.
Okay, now, so what permutations, should Nigerians expect in 2019 with these movements?
Expect any major structural adjustments in the political landscape of Nigeria. Yes, Bukola Saraki might be living under the shadows of his father, who was very philanthropic, and the peoples of Kwara State, given the situation that we find ourselves in Nigeria today, will continue to worship that particular, economic ideology that his father lived on, will continue to profit from it. But apart from Bukola Saraki, I see a very tragic situation in several other areas where people, by the virtue of the political positions that they occupy in the last 3 years, accumulating so much, material resources, thinking that they can tilt, the attention of the people. And let me tell you one fact that Nigerians should always watch out. The fact of the matter is that citizens are becoming increasingly aware of what the problem is and the way out of the problem, especially that there exists a leadership that tends to point to them, this is the way to go. So I am saying that in 2019, Fatima, do not expect anything radically different from what you saw in fact, what you are going to see in 2019 is a clearer margin, because I'm sure by now Independent National Commission has perfected, if the principles of Western liberal democracy continues to remain as one man, one vote, then I tell you that those who defected simply because they desire to fulfill certain personal political caprices that they don't see possibly enjoying in their present political formation. And in 2019, we have our PVCs. Like many people say, we will go, we will vote, and then we will make a choice of what we want for our children.
Okay, now back to you, Chide, in the studio. Now, at the end of the tunnel, what do you foresee? A stronger political culture or a weaker one?
A stronger political culture based on transparency, honesty, and integrity, which the leader of our party, the president of Nigeria, seemed to epitomize. Because if you even look at why Tambowa said he was leaving the party PDP to, APC to PDP, you can see it was all a tissue of lies, because he said that Buhari has not done anything in Sokoto State, which is unfortunate, because if you consider that Buhari was able to give over 18.3 billion naira to Sokoto under the Paris club to form as a kind of wage for salaries and pension, another 10.3 billion naira for payment of staff salaries and pensions in the state, not talk about 9 billion naira on the CBN Anchor Borrowers Program, not talk about the $1.5 million that was given for 1 million, annual living well a year, not talk about the road leading to Tambowal itself, built by the government. What I'm trying to say, therefore, that they are not giving us the real reason why they are leaving. They are leaving not because Buhari did not do anything, because I want to give an example of the Tambowal. No, we're not talking about the 8th Division Nigerian Army that has been established in Sokoto. We're not talking about the first ever tertiary military hospital, first of its kind in Nigeria, established in Sokoto. So we can go on and on. If we go to Kwara, you will see the same thing. So they are telling a whole lot of lies. That is why I started by saying that this is not defection, is disinfection. Because where I come from, they say when you take, for example, when you have a boil, for you to get that some freedom from the pain on that boil, the pus must express itself. When that pus expresses itself, if there was a tongue in there, you get it out, you start healing. That's exactly what has happened to APC now. So we are about to have a better, stronger leadership, which will now be beholden to the tendencies, or call it body language, of the leader. Not this type that came based on very perfidious arrangement. From day 1, July 2015, he became the Senate president. He went against all the norms of the party. He was never a believer on the party. Therefore, he has dragged us very down that we couldn't have been. So it is a welcome development, and it's good for Nigeria, because we are getting to get a Nigeria with purer people playing politics.
Thank you very much. We have to leave it here for now. We'll continue to monitor developments in the political scene.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chidia Maduekwe, the APC chieftain, here in our Abuja Network Center, and Professor Kabir Mato, Commissioner, Kaduna State Government, in our Kaduna Network Center. Moving on, the political terrain in the country in the past weeks was characterized by realignments and defections. The situation has continued to engage the minds of political analysts, including the APC chairman, Adams Oshomole, who addressed a news conference on the declining political ideology in Nigeria using the Benue example. Political correspondent Saliu Abdullahi has that report.
My objective ultimately is that we will get to a level where we have political parties that are defined by clear-cut ideology, and people will join or abstain from joining on the basis of whether or not they subscribe to those set of ideas.
This perhaps gives credence to the quintessential role of political party to a democratic structure that will respond to the hopes and aspirations of the people. This presupposes that political parties must have ideology as a platform on which to implement their manifesto for functional development of the society. What obtains today, perhaps, in the manifestation of defections, especially with the ruling party APC, observers say clearly underscores the lack of principle of national interest in the minds of some politicians.
If we all have the same concept of building our country, we should be able to work as a team in whichever major parties we find ourselves.
Party politics to some politicians, therefore, is to pursue personal interest rather than national or the direction of the party in the executive arm of government especially. The change agenda of the Buhari administration with fighting corruption as co-platform coupled with resuscitation of economy with agriculture and solid minerals at the center point are enough ideological goals to put party members in the right direction.
But the political practitioners and the politicians have, in a way, seen parties as merely nothing more than a vehicle for actualizing their individual ambition.
You will see that there has been very high spate of migration from one political party to the other because of this seeming lack of barricade between the several ideological divides as enunciated in their respective constitutions.
In the light of these and the policy direction of the country's leadership, which is responding to the needs of the people, perhaps this informed why the current leadership of the APC is working doggedly for members to conform with that policy direction for a sustained ideology that is responsive to the people's needs.
That we want to begin to focus on issues. Let the Nigerian people know where APC stand on XYZ policy vis-a-vis where other political parties stand. So we can have what you might call predominantly APC safe area and PDP, another political party safe area. Not based on religion, not based on ethnicity.
In Abuja, Salihu Abdullahi, NTA News.
A repeat broadcast of the full press interview comes up tomorrow at 6 o'clock in the evening. All NTA stations are advised to hook on to the network service. I often hear people say, you lose some and you gain some, as there are those who have of recent parted ways with the APC. There are others who seem more determined to ensure victory for the party come 2019. One of such is the Abia State chapter of the party. For members of the party there, the re-election of President Muhammadu Buhari and indeed the success of the party in next year's elections in the state is not negotiable. They are also asking the president not to be distracted by the defections the party is experiencing at the moment. Dennis Temple has more on that.
Recent political activities in Abia State again reawakened political consciousness of the members of the All Progressive Congress, APC, in the state. Some stakeholders who spoke on the gale of defections from APC and the preparations for 2019 general elections reaffirmed their support for the re-election of President Muhammadu Buhari and urged him not to be deterred in his fight against corruption.
Buhari have done a lot. In the first place, he is not corrupt.
The enemy from inside the house is the worst enemy.
Mr. Chairman, and even with the defections going on, some aspirants are still declaring their intentions to seek nominations to contest various political positions in the state under the platform of the party.
For the 2019
in Umuahia, Dennis Temple, NTA News.
The National Assembly is on recess. What are the implications of this on the 2019 elections? You don't want to miss this after this time out. Join us again.
Babe, who be this?
I got this, okay? Just...
Found it. Honey, you can keep him.
I've got this.
Do anything to get your Airtel SIM back on if you haven't used it for 30 days or more to enjoy 20 times the recharge value. Recharge 100 Naira and dial *241# to get 2,000 Naira.
There's a girl.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Standards Organization of Nigeria, SON, brings a new lease of life to Nigeria SMEs. SON has put a greater premium on developing standards to improve made in Nigeria products for export. We have developed more standards for products like sesame, cocoa, gari, and more, courtesy of our accredited state-of-the-art laboratories. In keeping with the federal government's ease of doing business, SON has simplified its processes and turned around time for SUNCAP, MANCAP, and other certification processes. SON has intensified market surveillance, raids, and seizures to reduce substandard products in circulation, and offenders shall be prosecuted. Join SON in ridding our nation of substandard products. If you see something, say something. Standards Organization of Nigeria, improving lives through standards.
Your favorite Maggi star now wears a new look. Its great taste and quality still remain the same. With Maggi, every woman is a star.
You in the air-conditioned office with the itchy throat. Strepsils. Girl in the spotlight with the raspy throat. Strepsils. You in the pollution. It's you. Dry throat. Strepsils. Hello in the downpour with the scratchy throat. Take Strepsils. Strepsils, with its soothing medicinal ingredients, will heal the harm done to your throat from external factors. Strepsils. Strepsils. Strepsils, for a dry, itchy, raspy, scratchy throat.
The Southern Borno Movement for Rotation of Power, comprising of Askira Uba, Bayo, Biu, Chibok, Dambua, Goza, Haul, Kwayakusar, and Shani local government areas of Borno State cordially invite the general public to its one-day maiden leadership summit under the distinguished chairmanship of Professor Chief Peter N. Lassa, OON. Theme, Borno and the Challenges of Leadership. Special guest of honor, Honorable Kashim Chatima, Executive Governor of Borno State. Special guest, Alhaji Lai Muhammad, Honorable Minister of Information and Culture. Guest speaker, Professor Haruna Dlakwa, University of Maiduguri. Date, Saturday, 4th August 2018. Time, 9 a.m. Venue, Barwi Luxury Suites, Maiduguri. Come one, come all. Let's unite to make Borno great again. Engineer Ibrahim Usman, Chairman, Southern Borno Movement for Rotation of Power. Announcer.
My promise to my child. I am not your friend. I am your mother. I will stalk you, debate you, and hunt you down if I have to. Because when it comes to protecting you, there's no such thing as too tough. That's why every night, I insist on Baygon Multi-Insect Killer for tough mosquito protection before bedtime. So I know my loved ones can fall asleep protected. S.C. Johnson, a family company.
Fake news which is shared for malicious purposes is a danger to our peace and security in Nigeria. Misinformation as fake news is a serious threat to our hard-earned democracy and promotes hatred and misunderstanding between our communities. We are all responsible for stopping the spread of fake news in its tracks. So, always check the source and credibility of any news item. Say no to fake news. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information.
Do you know that the Nigerian police now operates in the best international practices of policing? Do you know that the Nigerian police has been restructured to be more accountable and responsive to all your security challenges? Now, what the police demand from you is your trust, your collaborative efforts by providing necessary information about criminals and their activities in your neighborhood. Be vigilant to achieve our creed as we promise. We shall police the country based on international core values of policing with integrity. We shall ensure that rule of law prevails in our actions and activities. We shall respect diversity, display courage, show passion, and demonstrate professionalism. We shall operate within the principle of democratic policing. We shall shun corruption, and we shall make Nigeria safer and secured under the leadership of IGP Ibrahim Otum Idris.
Let the wind of change blowing across the country chase away crime for the benefit of our society. Yes, the Nigerian police says this change must come with peace and tranquility.
This message was brought to you by the Public Relations Department of the Nigerian Police Force.
We're glad to have you back with us. Barely 24 hours after his election as ECOWAS chairman, President Muhammadu Buhari has received his first foreign leader, President Adama Barrow of the Gambia. State House correspondent Adam Sambo tells us more about the visit.
A befitting welcome for President Adama Barrow of the Gambia on his second visit to President Muhammadu Buhari since coming to power in 2017. The Gambian leader, who was also in Togo for the ECOWAS summit, is here perhaps to formally congratulate President Muhammadu Buhari on his emergence as new chairman. The Gambia, he said, cannot thank President Muhammadu Buhari enough for the role Nigeria played in helping her to return to the path of constitutional democracy. The two leaders, who met behind closed doors, discussed issues of common interest. President Muhammadu Buhari applauded President Barrow for stabilizing the Gambia after the 2016 political impasse. The best route to national development, he said, is stability. As he puts it, development is usually the first casualty in an unstable polity. The president emphasized that when there is no stability, countries spend most of their financial resources on security instead of education, infrastructure, and employment generation for the people, particularly youths. Adama Barrow is the third president of the Gambia, one of Africa's smallest countries with over 2 million people. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
The Court of Appeals sitting in Abuja has set aside the judgment of a federal high court barring the National Assembly from reordering the sequence of conduct of elections in its amendment of the Electoral Act. The appellate court, in a judgment delivered by the 5-man panel led by its president, Justice Zainab Bilkachua, Wednesday, averred that the Accord Party, which is the first respondent, has no justifiable interest in the matter. Dele Atumbi tells us more.
In March this year, the Accord Party had dragged the National Assembly before a federal high court sitting in Abuja, challenging its legislative power to reorder the sequence of the conduct of elections in the country in its amendments of the Electoral Act 2018. Accord Party, through its counsel, argued before the lower court that conduct of election and its sequence were within the purview of the Independent National Electoral Commission. In its judgment, the lower court voided the election sequence provision of the Electoral Amendment Bill 2018. This judgment was what the National Assembly brought before the Court of Appeal for adjudication. In a 3-hour judgment, the 5-man panel led by the President of the Court of Appeal, Justice Zainab Bilkachua, determined the legal status of a bill, the legislative power of the National Assembly, and the locus standi of the first respondent claimant, Accord Party. It pointed out that the judgment of the lower court will erode the constitutional legislative power of the National Assembly if allowed to stay, noting that the bill in question has not been assented to. Relying heavily on the principle of separation of power as enshrined in the 1999 Constitution, the appellate court vacated the judgment of the lower court, describing it as academic exercise. The court thereby allowed the appeal of the National Assembly on its merits.
Appeal has upheld the position of the National Assembly, which is that the suit filed by the Accord Party was indeed a suit that was an abuse of court process and a suit that lacked justiciability.
One of the appellate court on this matter has again given bite to the principle of separation of power. The court determined that an action cannot commence in any suit against a bill during its pendency in the legislative arm. In Abuja, Dele Atumbi, NTA News.
Many thanks, Dele. Now, have you ever been in a situation where you have a critical issue to address with a deadline and the funds are not forthcoming? Then you have a fair knowledge of the frustration and anxiety the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) is facing. With just 199 days to the 2019 general elections, the 254 billion naira earmarked for the conduct of the elections is still lying in the shelves of the National Assembly, and the Assembly may resume late September. So, what is the fate of the 2019 elections in Nigeria? Mie Ogidi explores the options.
Consultations, intrigues, alignment and realignment, flags and buildings looking so inviting in party offices as the political climate warms up for February 16, 2019. Part of the realization of this election lies in this seemingly empty premises, as more than 242 billion naira to fund the elections is at the mercy of the National Assembly. And those who are expected to say aye or nay to this financial estimate are on recess and expected to open the gates on the 25th of September. That is just 144 days to the elections.
For now, we've been advocating that INEC should have a first-line charge from CBN directly.
The Constitution allows them to use, I think, about 15%. So I think INEC can go ahead and start implementing that.
Some feel this may be a punt on the democratization journey, but for the Presidential Hidden National Assembly, an official of the INEC, all hope is not lost.
We are discussing with the leadership of the National Assembly and appealing to the National Assembly to reconvene for a day or so to consider some of these matters.
I am confident that a budget will soon be given to, the funds will soon be given to us, and we can now go ahead with some of the other plans that we have.
Great optimism from INEC, but many are not going to bed with such words of optimism, but call on the National Assembly to reconsider its stand.
You don't need to give loophole for the INEC to say, look, because we are not giving money, that is why we are doing this. Give them what is supposed to be. Coming back when they are on recess will even make Nigerians to have confidence in them.
They should look at the national interest. Otherwise, collectively we'll pay for it as a nation.
In whole, there is a ray of hope. But I took a step further to know from the presidential aide whether the situation may not lead to extension of elections if INEC makes case for lack of time.
May God forbid that, because it will be a constitutional hitch. So may that day never come.
May that day never come, but prayers like this may answer faster if the parties involved come to a round table, discuss the issues and see how they can be easily resolved. Because the electorates in Nigeria may not be interested in hearing explanations. All what they want to see is to go to the polls at the stipulated dates and get their leaders at the various levels of governance. Mie Ogidi, NTA News.
The Nigeria Police Force has arrested 8 suspects in connection to the recent killings and armed robbery attacks along Abuja-Kaduna Expressway. Force Public Relations Officer, Acting Deputy Commissioner of Police, Jimo Moshood, while parading the suspects, affirmed that the force has strengthened its Operation Absolute Sanity on Nigerian roads. Olajide Bello has more on that.
Following the July 22nd armed robbery attack and kidnap on the Abuja-Kaduna Expressway, the Inspector General of Police, Ibrahim Idris, deployed additional police mobile force unit to beef up security in its ongoing Operation Absolute Sanity. Force Public Relations Officer says the IGP Intelligence Response Team, working on reliable intelligence, embarked on massive raid of identified kidnappers' den, hideouts and black spots on the Abuja-Kaduna, Kaduna-Zaria and Zaria-Kano highways.
This is an effort to recheck the operational crime prevention strategy of the force within Kaduna to Benungwari, to Funtua, to Kano and all the routes. This to make more men available to these 3 mobile police squadrons in this state. By this, we are going to have more than 2,000 to 3,000 mobile personnel returning back to Kaduna State to ensure safety of passenger on Kaduna-Abuja Highway, Kaduna-Benungwari, Benungwari to Zamfara, and Kaduna to Kano Highway. This is the latest directive to ensure that new impetus is brought into the fight against criminality and other criminal activities along these highways.
On the recent attacks experienced in some areas in Zamfara state, the Nigeria Police Force says it has made 35 arrests while presently embarking on police crime prevention, visibility and confidence building patrols in the affected areas. In Abuja, Olajide Bello, NTA News.
Now, we move on to security matters. There is this saying that every day for the thief and one day for the owner. It appears time has come for the day of the owner in Zamfara state, as the Nigerian Air Force says it is set to rain fire and brimstone on armed bandits wreaking havoc in towns and villages in that state. Olajide Bello tells us that with the deployment of platforms and personnel for Operation Diramikia, there is no hiding place for the criminals. This much he gathered from no other than the Air Officer commanding Special Operations Command, Air Vice Marshal Okpasa Okon. Olajide, you were there with the IOC. Can you tell us more on that?
The EC-135 helicopter took the lead and was followed by the Augusta 109, touching down at the Umar Musa Yaradua International Airport in Katsina State to provide intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance, close air support and armed reconnaissance. The cloud was clear as if nothing was coming through. Then came the Hercules C-130 aircraft, making its way with NAF Special Forces and also an Alpha jet. These deployments of air assets and personnel by the Chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, is in response to President Muhammadu Buhari's directive to assemble a strong military force to launch fierce attacks on bandits terrorizing villages and towns in Zamfara state.
It's an air operation meant to flush out the criminals in Zamfara state and its environs. But we cannot take our assets there because we do not have a place to really land there and protect all of them. So Katsina happens to be the best place for that, and that is why we are here. More will still be arriving, and some personnel are still coming in, and other equipment for the same operation.
The Nigerian Air Force says Diramikia, which is being conducted in close coordination with other security agencies, would be executed with precision and high intensity of its air power to quickly degrade the armed bandits in a bid to restoring normalcy in the affected areas. Olajide Bello, NTA News.
Local food vending is very common on Nigerian streets. In part 3, when we return, we'll take you to the streets of Medina in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, where Nigerians are also selling food. Don't go away, we'll be right back.
Do your gums hurt? Yeah. Does your toothpaste contain sage, eucalyptus, myrrh, chamomile? Oh, that in one toothpaste? Yes, try Colgate Herbal. Colgate Herbal contains nature's best herbs and Colgate's fluoride technology to give you strong teeth and healthy gums. Ah, Colgate Herbal. Let's go. Colgate Herbal for strong teeth and healthy gums.
For close to 60 years, Golden Penny has been feeding the nation every day, providing quality, wholesome nutrition to a nation of people who love to sing when we are happy, love to tell stories when we are together, love to dance when we hang out, love to cry when we are touched, love to shout when we are excited, and love to nurture when we care. We are the food basket of our great nation, and we love it. Golden Penny, feeding the nation every day.
This is where you'll be, pitching that breakthrough idea of yours. But before any of that, there's stuff to get done, starting now. First, you'll have to clear out your schedule. Sorry, guys. You fellas, too. You'll make it up to her.
You better.
Now, let's get to work. Keep at it. Looking good. Ooh, love it. Oh, not good enough. Well, let's start over again. And again, and again. Pressure will get to you, but you will rise up and power through it all. Then step onto that stage and hit them with that idea. Bam! See, they all love it. Even this guy. You, my friend, are unstoppable, power horse. Unstoppable you.
Share a mentor, make a friend. Stick together till the end. Share a mentor, socialize. Share mentors and be nice.
Mentos candy. Crunchy outside, chewy inside.
Have some fun. Who says no to Mentos?
Now introducing the new Mentos Extra Strong Mint.
There is a reason Africa is called the new frontier. What was once potential is now an opportunity ready to be seized. Once revered for our resources, today's wealth lies in our people. People who build the cities that shape the future. People who know an idea in one place means business in another. A generation for whom technology means there are no borders, no boundaries. We are the new lions in a brave new world, kings of the urban jungle. And there's a bank that puts the world in our pocket and the future in our hands. UBA, Africa's global bank.
You're welcome back, and we now talk business. Manufacturing sector expands as Purchasing Managers Index reaches 56.8 index points. Moplang Dakok has details of these and more on Business News.
Hello and welcome. The Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index, PMI, released by the Central Bank of Nigeria for the month of July, stood at 56.8 index points, indicating expansion in the manufacturing sector for the 16th consecutive month, 0.2 index points lower than that of the previous month. Of the 14 subsectors surveyed, 13 reported growth in the review month, while the plastics rubber products subsector declined. On the other hand, the composite PMI for the non-manufacturing sector stood at 57.7 points. Meanwhile, in view of the high interest rates in the country, more stakeholders are advocating reduction. The recent is the plea by the Minister of Agriculture, Audu Ogbe, to the Central Bank of Nigeria to intervene to bring down lending rates in the nation's banking industry in order to boost agriculture and other small businesses.
We need to find cheaper funding for agri. It's a major challenge. Even the 9% of the CBN is not good enough. Every other part of the world is doing 3.5%. So these are the issues.
From the equities market, the Nigerian Stock Exchange closed shop, recording a loss of minus 1.09% to cancel the previous gain, with the all-share index standing at 36,612.83 basis points. Zenith Bank, UBA and Nigerian breweries were the toast of investors. NIMET, Jais Bank and Okumu Oil led the gainers table. On the losing side were CAP, Royal X and Interbrew. And that's business news. Thank you for watching. I am Moplang Dakok.
Thank you, Moplang. Now, there is a saying that there is business in almost everybody. Well, this seems to be the situation in Saudi Arabia as more Nigerians take advantage of the convergence of thousands of their compatriots who joined millions of others for the annual Hajj to make brisk business. Musa Abubakar in Saudi Arabia reports that some food vendors are making sure that Nigerians don't miss home much, with local delicacies always available.
It's another day for prayers and worship.
While that preoccupied the minds of pilgrims here, the menu list is not entirely familiar, even though the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria made sure pilgrims get breakfast and dinner while they are in Medina. This gives room for a lunch, a familiar kind of lunch. That's where the service of Muhammad comes in handy. Some say it's home away from home, most especially when one is afforded the luxury to get homemade dishes. For 2 years now, Muhammad and his friends do all sorts of labor to earn a living, and the pilgrimage presents an opportunity to make brisk business by selling local cuisine, such as tuwo and kuka, taushe, okra soup, as well as rice and stew, similar to the one cooked in Nigeria. Tuwo and every other soup without meat costs 5 riel, while with meat costs 10 riels, the equivalent of 1,000 naira in Nigeria. Comparatively, the price is favorable when one has to pay as much as 15 riels for rice and chicken or chips.
Kamakon wani channel da aka bude wannan na dan sabon lokacin nan na Nigeria. To sai na ga yadda wani mutum naga yana yi kuma alhamdulillah ta'ala.
Other Nigerians sells currency during this period to pilgrims who needs reals for shopping.
Mutanenmu Kanawa idan ka same ta naira daga nan da yake ka san nan su naira bata da banki anan. Nan dole sai dai mu samu dan abun goro mu ba mutanenmu alhazai wanda kai yarda da shi mutum mai amana. Sai mai da mai ita Kano kuma shikenan sai ta zama ana kasuwa da ita can.
They may enjoy lots of patronage at this time, but the major concern is majority of them are neither legal residents nor have the license to operate.
Na sai da shi a hankali kamar a boye saboda sha'ani na hukuma. Saboda ka san abincin illegal ne.
What should have been remittances for the country may be lost.
From Medina in Saudi Arabia, I am Musa Abubakar, NTA News.
The introduction of joint border patrol with Benin Republic and the cooperation of border communities may be the sustainable solution to rice smuggling into Nigeria. This is the finding of our correspondent, Muhammad Abdul Qadir, who has been investigating rice smuggling at Seme, Idiroko, Nigeria's major international border with Benin Republic.
Is Seme, Nigeria's major international border with Benin Republic. On the surface, all appears normal, but below the surface, a lot is going on. This is one of the major frontiers where the battle against rice smuggling is going on. The smugglers are unrelenting and continue to explore various means to bring in imported rice through Benin Republic. They used members of border communities as human carriers, but can also be creative in devising other strategies for concealment.
A woman of over 60 years old will take 1/3 on top of her hair. She'll make like a pregnant woman, have another 1/3. Then she take another one at the back like a baby. Try to cross. My boy will drop it. Because if you allow that woman to go 5 or 10 times a day, in a week she will make a trailer.
Wonders, they say, shall never end. This, to a layman watching, these are baskets of tomatoes. But contrary to what you are seeing here, is believed to be a new way of concealment. In this warehouse, there are over 50,000 bags of imported rice seized by the customs. At Idiroko border, it is much the same. The customs warehouse is filled with impounded imported rice. The customs have a lot to show for their fight against rice smuggling, but smugglers could be getting away with a lot more. On the Idiroko axis alone, there are over 100 unapproved routes into Nigeria from Benin Republic. They are all unmanned. The customs relies on tip-off and patrols, but their response is often restrained to avert loss of lives and conflict with members of border communities.
People in the environment here, they look at this smuggling not as an offense. They say it's an ancestral trade which their parents have been doing one generation to the other.
This community leader, however, disagrees and insists they are working with the customs.
The issue of smuggling is not as ancestral. We are predominantly farmer here, and then we engage in artisans. Most of them are artisans. So, and then we don't, that's our KBC. It's not like this issue of smuggling.
The sustainable solution to rice smuggling, however, lies across the border in Benin Republic, where the customs confirms that even more warehouses are springing up with rice meant for Nigeria. President Buhari's meeting with President Talon of Benin Republic is expected to be a turning point in the fight against rice smuggling. All eyes will be on how it plays out on the ground here in Seme and Idiroko borders. Muhammad Abdelkader, NTA News.
Some of the qualities for a realistic and fair assessment of governance may well go beyond reflections on policies and programs to appreciating some of the actions taken by the government towards fulfilling campaign promises to the people. In Nasarawa State, there is an impression of bright prospects, while urging government to do more, taking into account critical infrastructure in key areas. Let's now join Joshua Ojito for more on that.
Ngwanrere Agricultural Community along Lafia Shendam Road is among the closest to Government House. A coincidence, the community's youth leader, Abubakar Liman, with other people engaged on appreciating federal government for siting a housing estate in the area.
There is a new focus in project delivery. This project we started about a year ago is now almost 90% completed.
The project under the National Housing Program with 100 units under the first phase is adding value to the aspiration of the community for development.
You, the media, want you to take up most of these things and spread it to the world so that they can see what Buhari is doing in the present administration.
Less than a kilometer is another life-changing infrastructure project of 330 kV power substation in Akuruba. The work is progressing, and expectation is to boost power supply in Lafia and neighboring Plateau State as well as the FCT. Among the community of people, this farmer acknowledges the Buhari administration for touching the lives of the people through infrastructure projects, insisting to offer special prayers in appreciation. There are many other projects being funded by the government on roads, water and social intervention programs to promote the well-being of the people.
Local water bridge is also the struggle, the push of the governor that the work is continuous even after the previous administration. And by so doing, it will also expand development. Economic potentials of the state will further be exploited by reducing the distance between the east and the north, and also by transversing the other part of the state that was hitherto locked up.
Stakeholders say they will continue to support the prospects of infrastructure development for Nasarawa State by the federal government. In Lafia, Joshua Ojito, NTA News.
Thank you, Joshua. The President Muhammadu Buhari-led administration has been commended for making good on promises to develop critical sector of the economy. The governor of Ogun State, Ibikule Amusu, gave the commendation during the signing of a memorandum of understanding on the Ota water project with the Minister of Water Resources, Suleiman Adamu. Dennis Adeguloye was at the historic signing and now reports.
In line with Sustainable Development Goal number 6 of providing adequate potable water, sanitation and hygiene services to all corners of society by 2030. This partnership between the federal government and Ogun State government is historic in that for over 30 years, many of the water projects in Ogun State have till now been abandoned. However, with the commitment of federal government to revive moribund projects across the country, the MOU on the program for addressing rural water supply, sanitation and hygiene, PWASH, launched in 2016 by Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo, is expected to pave the way for an improved living standard for Nigerians, especially those in the rural areas.
The project, when completed, will have capacity to deliver about 15 million liters per day of potable water to the people living in Ota and Ijoko environs. This MOU, which is in accordance with the spirit of President Buhari's administration, of providing critical infrastructure for the good of Nigerians will enable the federal government and the state government to work together towards speedy execution and completion of a very commercially viable project.
I'm sure that you will see that very soon water will be running. Our government is not the one that will be seeing water on television. No. You will physically get the water. You will be running. That is what we do. President Muhammadu Buhari administration is not the one that deceives. Whatever he says he will do, you will see that he will do it.
Ogun State becomes the first to sign this agreement, and 22 other states have so far signed up to what is described as a revolutionary initiative by the federal government. In Ogun, Dennis at Dignloye, NTA News.
Micro, small and medium enterprises are really the subsectors that have been keeping the Nigerian economy afloat. Ignore this at your folly. That is, if you are in the business of managing the Nigerian economy. It's also noteworthy that these SMEs have been on a steady growth as avenues for job and wealth creation in the country. In Ebonyi State, efforts are being intensified to ensure that products from SMEs compete favorably with those from other climes. Unfortunately, I have Fortunate Ozo to tell us more about this Ebonyi experience.
It's no gainsaying the fact that small and medium-scale enterprises have the potentials to grow the economy of this country if given the enabling environment to thrive. However, they have contributed just a small percentage of the GDP, unlike other emerging economies of the world, and this is due to a number of challenges militating against their smooth operation. Despite the efforts of various governments in tackling these challenges through grants, low-interest loan from Bank of Industry and Agriculture, CBN SMEs initiatives through the banks, among others, a cross-section of entrepreneurs in Ebonyi State say high cost of production materials, government bureaucracy in registration of products and businesses, preference for imported goods over locally made ones are their major setback.
Multiple taxation, the VAT, the withholding tax, even personal individual taxes, so many things, environmental, water.
Suffering from the task force, disturbing us, sometimes they come to carry our things.
You can see some youths, some vibrant youths with a lot of skills, but because of the financial inconveniences, they will not be able to utilize their skills.
Aside the glaring challenges, it was observed that most of the SMEs visited had the capacity to employ and train at least 20 persons.
Like I said, that 50 people have been trained.
We used to employ up to 30 people, but now things are now going normal. We adjust, we reduce the number of workers here.
For investment to thrive in our state, we have to ensure that we dismantle all the bottlenecks, all the red tapeism issues in taxation.
Respondents are optimistic that small and medium-scale enterprises will be a safe haven for investment if all stakeholders will play their part, thereby boosting the economy of this country. In Abakaliki, Fortunate Ozo, NTA News.
Thank you, Fortunate. We'll take a short break now. There'll be more when we return after the break. Join us again.
Brought us as usual.
As usual. You have no problem.
For the three people.
You are welcome, sir.
As usual, yeah? I was
You take that one. You take that one.
You don't understand? We want Nigerian homegrown rice. Finish. You don't have?
You don't have?
Join the rice revolution today.
no other rice that tastes like Nigerian rice. Are you sorry? That's the Nigerian rice we are talking about. Chocolate made in Nigerian rice. Healthy food. I'm going to bring Mrs. Mobu to come to chocolate rice made in Nigeria here. And see how it are made.
Correct.
And how they are cook it.
Correct.
Homegrown rice are good for your health. It will boost our economy and will give employment to our people.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
You're welcome back. Now, obtaining a national driver's license is a basic requirement to drive a vehicle in Nigeria. Compromising the standards have consequences, some of which are risks of life of the driver and others at a slight violation of traffic rules, which may not be understood by certified driver. Now, the Federal Road Safety Commission says it is confronting the challenges on driver's license head-on. Usman Aliyu tells us more.
Luckily for this driver, he gets away with it. Road traffic violation is a common sight these days, especially where no law enforcement agents watching. Comparing the vehicle population in Nigeria and the number of licensed drivers reveal existence of large number of motorists who are not supposed to ply the road. In commercial areas of cities like Abuja, the scenario of the disturbing horn blaring of drivers suggests a character of impatience which usually infringe the free flow of traffic.
Well, nagging questions have a reason. Some drivers are just desperate to move. Others are very cautious. The two categories can move, but at a price.
Federal Road Safety Commission says it is no longer tolerating any mischief with regard to compromising standards in obtaining driver's license. And so here are sector heads of driver's license centers across Nigeria sweating on how to confront these contemporary challenges.
Of recent, the urban crashes is on the increase because the driving schools have not properly trained the would-be drivers. There's nothing like minimum standard again. I've given 60 days deadline for all the driving schools to comply with the full standards of driving school standardization program. 60 days. Failure to comply, I will block them from the portal.
Eyes now focus on those involved for the certification, instruction and issuance of genuine license.
You get a certificate, a driving school certificate. You need to sign to indicate of safety that you keep the rules. You obey the rules on the road. It's a condition.
Each driver should go through a driving school, a licensed driving school, not anyhow driving school.
This driver is a learner.
I want to be a professional driver, and apart from that, I also want to have my license.
With the fingers of the Federal Road Safety pointing at those responsible for mischief in acquisition of driver's license, it is expected that things will get better in the business for national development and safety. Usman Aliyu, NTA News.
The wife of the president, Aisha Muhammadu Buhari, has arrived Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso, to attend a high-level regional seminar on the promotion of the awareness of the fight against cancer, hosted by the First Lady of Burkina Faso, Sika Kabore. State House correspondent Aliyu Kabir reports that the meeting is expected to be attended by the spouses of African leaders and other development partners.
The wife of the President, Aisha Muhammadu Buhari, alongside other African First Ladies who are members of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, will be engaged for 2 days for this seminar on cancer with optimism of addressing the challenges of the dreaded disease within the continent of Africa. The Senior Special Assistant to the President, Dr. Hajosani, sheds more light on the significance of the meeting.
It's promotion of awareness on the fight against cancer, as well as advocacy on the progress being made after the last general meeting, and also identify their terms of reference and agenda.
The meeting is committed to equipping the spouses of the African leaders with tools to ensure efficiency in combating cancer through advocacy and strengthening cooperation in the continent. In Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso, Aliyu Kabir, NTA News.
Update on sports and the weather picture for tomorrow. That's when we come back after the break. Do stay. The cause of